Welcome to At Issue. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm H. Wayne Wilson, and for the next half hour, you and I are going to learn about the airports in Peoria. Yes, I said plural. We're going to be talking about the General Wayne A. Downing Peoria International Airport, the new terminal, airline service, and we're also going to talk later in the program about improvements at Mount Holly Airport. And to have that discussion, we have the Director of Airports, Gene Olson, is with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's good to be here, H. Thanks.
Let's start with the new terminal. We'll get into some airline service here in a moment because I know there's some question marks, but the terminal, I've flown in and out of it several times now that it's been open, and it's a lot nicer. Is it working out the way you had hoped?
It actually is. It's been a great experience to move into that building and start to use it. I think probably the biggest feedback that we get is everybody likes the decor and how open and airy it is. And like any big project, there's a few little bugs that you still have to work out, but nothing that passengers would notice.
Well, let me ask about baggage, because if there was a complaint at the old terminal, it was slow baggage.
Mostly that has been taken care of. All of the physical impediments to quick baggage service have been fixed. We still have things that Mother Nature might throw at you from time to time, and there's some maybe personnel issues that I would call it. A lot of times when the airlines will have two flights that come close together, they only have a very limited staff, so they'll empty one airplane and then go and work on the second airplane, and then people will see the baggage coming in. So that has caused some delays. We've tried to fix that by making sure that our staff walk through the building more when we know that that's happening. And we're trying to increase the communication between the airline staff and our staff so that when they get swamped with airplanes like that, we know and we can go and pitch in and help out.
We're going to come back and talk about other things happening at the terminal, including a new tower that is somewhere in the future. But let's move to service first. We just saw American AMR Corporation, the parent to American, and American Eagle both filing bankruptcy. Have you had contact with American Airlines since that filing?
Yes, they let us know as soon as they filed. Airport directors across the country heard about it, and it was not really unexpected. They were the last major legacy carrier that had not gone through bankruptcy. So everyone was sort of saying, are they or aren't they? And when they finally pulled the trigger on it, nobody was really that surprised.
What kind of reassurance did they give you in terms of continued service in Peoria?
Well, they indicated to us in the communications that we got that nothing was going to change. They're still going to operate all the flights that they had scheduled. They're still going to sell tickets and allow people to change tickets the way they always have. So operationally, they've given us every assurance that nothing is going to change. And again, it's a reorganization. It's Chapter 11, so they're reorganizing. It's not a Chapter 7 liquidation.
You don't anticipate reduced service from American?
No, I don't. If you look at the passenger numbers that we've been seeing, their passenger numbers from a year ago in October to October of this year, passenger numbers grew 10.5%. They're our busiest carrier. They have about 32% of the market here in Peoria. And even, a year ago, they've always been, since I've been in Peoria, they've always been either the number one or the number two carrier. And so they're doing well. From the numbers that we have access to, it looks like they're still making pretty good money here in Peoria, so I think they're going to stick around.
Continue to fly into ORD and to Dallas-Fort Worth?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about another airline, and the reason I bring this up is we saw that that Southwest purchased AirTran, and there was some question as to what Southwest was going to do with AirTran, but it appears that they've now made the decision they're going to eliminate AirTran in several airports across the country. Is that correct?
Yes, I mean they've had a business model of connecting large cities with high frequencies using one type of airplane. and it appears that they're going to be sticking with that business model. Whether AirTran as a name goes away or whether they maintain the operation as a separate name and keep it active, that hasn't really been determined yet. I think there's some labor issues that Southwest is going over with the two pilot unions, and it's always complex when you merge two airlines, how you're going to merge those two seniority lists together. That ends up being one of the stickiest things they have to work on. Mm-hmm. So how they manage that still remains to be seen, but they are sticking with the model of big cities and high frequencies.
And of course, AirTran and Southwest do not serve Peoria, but you do have Allegiant Airlines. Mm-hmm. Has it ever crossed your mind that maybe someone would buy Allegiant? And we're going to talk a little bit more about Allegiant and where they, the kind of model they have here. But what might happen? Because we saw that Bloomington is apparently going to lose AirTran service after that merger. So Allegiant?
Allegiant sort of created a new business model from scratch, and their management team kind of invented what it is that Allegiant does. There's no one else who really kind of does that. Spirit Airlines kind of does that, but Allegiant certainly does it better than everybody else. And that model is to connect what they would call underserved airports or airports in smaller communities and more rural areas, and they connect them up to nice places to go. So what they're doing is really casting a kind of a longer line and trying to get a larger group of people and fill the airplane every time, even if they have to sell that last seat at a discount, because they know they're going to sell them other services like the ride to the hotel room themselves, itself if they can. And one of the things they do is they target communities that have a very large number of hotel rooms. So meeting with Allegiant and learning how they operate has been really an education for me. I don't see another airline out there that has the same philosophy they do. So I think whether they get acquired or not by another company is probably a different issue, but I don't see anyone else out there in the industry doing the kind of flying that they do.
What passenger load do they carry out of Peoria?
They're usually, like right now, they're our number 2 carrier. They're usually in the neighborhood of 5,000 or 6,000 passengers a month. And that's just the enplaning side. It's about 12,000 when you add the deplaning side, and they're in 150. Their airplanes are configured two ways, either 150 seats or 166, and they're going through a revamping process where they're taking all the 150 seaters and converting them to 166. They're doing that by taking the galleys out. So. Not too many people order meals on those flights, so why do you need to fly around with an empty galley?
They currently serve 3 different destinations out of Peoria?
Right. They fly direct flights to Las Vegas and Mesa and Tampa St. Pete.
Is there any discussion about maybe a 4th destination out of Peoria?
There is. I mean, we would love to see them fly to a couple of the cities that they're currently serving and add that leg back into Peoria. We're always conversing with them about that. They've had kind of a strategic program in place. We've seen them expand to other communities, and we hope to see them expand here in Peoria too.
Can you share any of those possible destinations with us?
Not at this time, no.
Okay. I expected that answer, but have to ask.
Well, and partly it's because we don't know. We're talking to them about several items, and we don't know exactly what they would like to do and what fits their plans and what doesn't.
What kind of load how full are their airplanes? Their
airplanes are full. They're kind of an average load factor for an airline nowadays is about 78%. Allegiant flies around up in the 90% range. Which is unheard of. I mean, no other airline flies that kind of loads. But they have a sort of a different philosophy. Everybody's probably aware that when you buy your ticket, you want to buy it as far in advance as you can because usually the price is lower. But Allegiant will say, well, we've got an empty seat, let's sell it for $30. And so you can, if you watch the computer and you keep an eye on the specials, and you don't if you've got a lot of flexibility on when you can go, you might be able to pick up a $30 ticket and find yourself on a beach or in Las Vegas.
You mentioned, we talked about the 3 destinations Allegiant goes to. How many destinations total for all the airlines out of Peoria?
We have 9 cities. We have 2 airlines that go to O'Hare, and then on average the other airlines go to 2 cities apiece. We have 8 today, but in April we will have 9.
And April is because you're adding Atlanta back to the mix.
That's right. We were able to work with Delta Airlines and Caterpillar and put a team together to convince Delta to resume those Atlanta flights. We're going to have 3 a day. We'll have a morning flight, a midday flight, and about a dinner hour flight. And then the last arrival will actually be late at night, so that airplane will overnight and be the first airplane out in the morning.
And this is Atlanta had been served actually when you first arrived at the airport in 2009?
Right. I started here in June of 2009, and we received notification from Delta in July that they were going to be pulling that flight, that city. And so we started working on getting it back almost before it left. And it was a challenging project to get done, but we did get it done.
So how do you go about convincing an airline that just pulled out 3 years ago to come back on the same route?
Well, they were still filling the airplanes when they made the announcement. They were probably at 75% load factor, but the mix of passenger had changed from being a lot of business travel, because if you remember, 2009 was sort of in the depths of the recession, and so the mix of traveler had really shifted from business to leisure. And so their yields, in other words, the number of cents per mile that they're getting out of those flights, had really gone down. Business travel has really come back, and we're seeing, of our 3 traditional carriers, we're seeing almost double-digit month-on-month growth compared to the same month the previous year. So when the business traveler comes back, that really entices the traditional carriers to come back. And the reason that Atlanta was so important was because of the international connections. Delta alone connects, it has 200 cities that they fly to from Atlanta, 208 I believe it was. And of those, about 70 are international destinations. So it's kind of interesting. I always tell people, if you fly from Peoria and you want a direct flight, you can get to 8 and then pretty soon 9 cities. If you take a connecting flight, you can get almost anywhere in the United States and probably a good chunk of the world. And if you take 2 connecting flights, you can get everywhere in the United States and most of the world. So it's amazing from our little facility that you can have that kind of access.
What kind of equipment are they going to be flying?
They'll be flying 50-seat regional jets, most likely the CRJ-200.
Okay, we're going to talk about the CRJ-200 in just a moment, but you mentioned business and you mentioned leisure. Is there a different price structure for that?
Not really a different price structure formally, but the seats are available. The airline divides the airplane up into buckets, as they call it, and they'll have a certain number of seats in each bucket, and they'll have a few that are very low priced. They'll have a bunch in the middle, and then they'll have a few that are kind of steep. And what they do is they try to get that person who absolutely has to go somewhere tomorrow and doesn't have any flexibility. That person becomes their most rewarding passenger.
And business would be more likely to do that as opposed to a leisure traveler.
Right.
The leisure travelers would say, I'm going to wait till next month.
Right. And the leisure traveler usually makes longer plans. They usually know, I'm going to take a vacation on Memorial Day. And so they can plan for that a lot farther out. Whereas the business traveler sort of has some planning, but has to react a lot of times.
Let's talk about the CRJ-200. And for the audience's benefit, please explain what a CRJ-200 is.
Yeah, CRJ-200 is RJ made by Canadair, which is now owned by Bombardier. And it's a 50-seat jet. They have the single aisle and 2 seats on each side of the aisle. It was actually a development of the Challenger business jet. They increased the size of the business jet, put a bigger engine on it, a little bit wider wingspan, and presto, you have a 50-seat airliner. They were the 50-seat RJ market was really booming in the 1990s. and you were seeing airlines snap them up as fast as they could. And some of the airlines that were latecomers to the game didn't have as much flexibility to buy the model they maybe really wanted because they were already sold out.
And there was another manufacturer, Embraer, is that Brazilian?
Yeah, Embraer makes a series of regional jets. Theirs are still mostly 50-seaters. They're configured a little differently, so they have a single aisle, one seat on the left and two or three on the right. Two on the right, I believe.
Yeah.
And I actually like those because I like to sit in that left seat. A lot more room.
The important issue here is that you mentioned the late 90s, that was the boom time for these kinds of airplanes. And when jet fuel was 78 cents at that time, it is no longer 78 cents a gallon. It's over $3.
Right.
So with a fourfold increase, the cost effectiveness of a 50-seater is no longer acceptable.
It definitely puts pressure on the airline's bottom line. One of the recent accounts that I read talked about being able to fly a 50-seat RJ, and it took 19 gallons of fuel to get 50 seats worth of passengers 500 miles. And they said they could do the same thing in a bigger airplane for 7 gallons of fuel. What that really means is it only takes about 26% more fuel to fly, say, an MD-90 500 miles, and you can carry 3 times the number of passengers. So the cost per seat goes way down.
So there are some bigger regional jets, is that correct?
Yeah, Embraer has, most companies have stopped producing the smaller end of the regional jet. And so now what you see is Embraer is building, for example, 90-seaters. Canadair, Bombardier is building 70-seaters and is looking at bigger ones. So, you know, and there's really not a lot of difference. If you look at some of the old early DC-9s, those were about in the 90 to 100 seat market. And, you know, they're a bigger airplane, but they were short. And so they had about the same seating capacity. So we're sort of seeing the market return to that size. That was back under the regulated days. But you know, we're seeing aircraft size since the Deregulation Act of 1978. We're seeing the airlines trying to always struggle to match the right equipment to the right market. And unfortunately, it takes years to develop and certify an aircraft, and then when you buy it, you've sunk so much money into it, you want to operate it for 20 years. And so the cycle on the equipment is a lot slower than the market cycle.
So that brings the question up of, is there any anticipation of Peoria losing the number of flights, the frequency of flights? Because we have this mismatch. Mm-hmm. Might that happen?
You can't say never, but I don't believe it will happen. You know, we have about 900 seats. Well, in April, we will have about 900 seats a day departing Peoria. And in 5 years, I'm hoping that we will have more seats departing Peoria. But if I were to try to break that up and predict the aircraft size, I don't know that I would want to make a bet on that. As you increase the aircraft size, if you keep the seats the same, you look at a decrease in frequency. You know, I often get the question, why don't we have Southwest in Peoria? Well, if you look at Southwest's smallest city, they have 5 departures a day by 737s, all going to one airport. That's about the same number of seats that we have in Peoria per day. But we don't go to one airport. We go, you know, to 8, soon to be 9 airports. So our people, we're not sending big groups of people to 1 or 2 locations. We're sending little groups of people all over the world. And so the smaller aircraft actually fits our market better. I think that the RJs are still going to be around for quite a while. I do hope that we see an upgrade to maybe the 60 or 70 seaters, especially the 70 seaters, because then that introduces a 2-class service where you can have a coach and a first class. And the airlines really like that because they can make a little better yield on that.
Are you prepared to discuss potential new destinations beyond the 9 that will be at the airport by next April?
In general terms, we've taken care of a big business link that was missing by regaining the Atlanta flights. So now we're looking to maybe entice a carrier to, as they say, go a straight line to a beach somewhere. So Florida is always popular. There are some destinations in and around Florida that we would love to see service to from Peoria. The key is going to be finding the right carrier to match that up with.
But you can't specifically say what destination.
Well, we haven't really targeted a specific destination yet.
Let's talk about that tower. There's a tower, of course, but you're going to be building a new one at some point in time.
Right.
What's the timetable? Where's it going to be?
Well, let me back up a little bit. The old tower, the existing tower, is on top of the old terminal building, and the same things that made us want to move out of that building and build a new airline terminal, those same factors really make that building untenable as a long-term solution for a control tower in Peoria. So we've already gone through the process and done a site selection study for a new tower. My initial hope was to have it be outside of the terminal area and have it be on some other part of the airport. But it became clear that economically it had to be in a very small area to be able to see all the pavements that they have to see. So we analyzed 14 sites, narrowed it down to 4 for a real detailed analysis, and we finally, as of the end of September, we finally selected the preferred site, which is a location between the old terminal and Byerly Aviation in a grassy area right there. Some of the old employee parking for the old terminal will get turned into things like base buildings and hopefully a TRACON, which is a radar room.
And no timetable?
We'd like to do it as fast as possible, but I'm thinking 3 to 5 years is about as fast as that can possibly go.
And therefore you can't really completely tear down the old terminal until the new tower is built.
Exactly. We're in a partial demolition of the old terminal. If you kind of look at what has the old white brick around it, on the west side about half that white brick will go, and then the rest of the white brick and the big black cube will stay. The rest of it will go.
Let's talk about the lesser-known airport, but an important one, Mount Holly. Runway extension is the most important thing that's happening there.
Right.
It's only a 400-foot extension from 3,600 to 4,000. Why is that so important?
The big thing about that, 4,000 feet is kind of a magic number for insurance companies. When you see twin-engine aircraft, a lot of times the insurance company wants to have at least 4,000 feet of length because it gives the pilot a little bit extra margin of safety in case something goes wrong. So the extra 400 feet, while it's not a huge extension, gets us over that magic number, and it opens the airport up to more service by aircraft like Beechcraft King Airs, which is kind of a twin-engine propeller business airplane.
One final topic, the gift shop. Mm-hmm. You have an announcement about the gift shop?
Well, we actually do. The gift shop operator let us know that she was no longer interested in continuing beyond the end of the year, and so we have a request for proposals out on the street. And if anybody is interested in being our gift shop operator, we'd love to have them contact us. We'll send them a proposal package, and we'd love to see who's interested out there.
And the gift shop is located?
It's right next to the Great Hall, between the Great Hall and baggage claim.
One more quick thought. In this personal experience, I had a problem getting a meal at the non-secured side restaurant. It was in the middle of the day. Is that a problem, or?
It has been. It was initially when we moved into the new building. The restaurant operator was still trying to figure out how things were working in the new building, and so we had some initial complaints about the restaurant not being open. We've worked with the operator, and they've expanded their hours. It's kind of I would love to be able to just say, hey, you have to stay open. But they're not my employees. It's an independent business, and we work with them to try to make sure the service is provided, but they still have to make a profit also.
Gene Olson, thank you so much. I appreciate your spending time with us and giving us an update on the General Wayne A. Downing Peoria International Airport.
My pleasure.
We'll be back in 2 weeks. We're off next week, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a live program here in the studios. We'll have the mayors and city managers of Bloomington and Normal answering your questions. You can submit questions by phone, Twitter, by email. We'll all do it 2 weeks from this Thursday night. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.